Yo, what's happening, everybody? I just wanted to come on today and talk a little about what's been going on with me lately. I'd say ever since the pandemic ended and we've all come out of lockdown, it's often felt like all I've been trying to do is find my way back to myself. And I don't mean that in terms of trying to find my way back to the person I was before the pandemic, but into a new version of myself that feels free and true to who I am right now. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody listening, but when I reflect on the lockdowns now, that time in my life very much feels like a time capsule. But it's a time capsule that on some days I still feel like I'm trying to break free from and to find that new version of myself I know is so deeply in there. And that isn't to say I haven't achieved anything in the past few years or haven't had some good times, because I definitely have. Whether it's moving to a different area or putting out new music, getting on a stage and performing live, having new experiences and connections with new people. Things have just never quite fallen into place in my life. Life just hasn't landed the way I imagined it would by this time. And I didn't always feel that way before the pandemic, I don't think. That's not to say I was always happy, but things around me felt more exciting and felt more balanced. I was out with some friends recently at a bar in Shoreditch, and we had gone to support a friend of ours that has a DJ residency. He has a DJ residency spot at this cool bar in Shoreditch every Friday. And I'm walking into the bar and I stop and take a look around and I glance the room and the place is half empty. And I walk over to my table and me and my friends are just hanging out. We're ordering multiple drinks to the table and stuff. And I looked to my friend at one point and I just kind of said, is it me? Or does the energy in the room tonight just feel kind of flat? And he thought about that for the moment, and then he looked at me and said, "You know what, Jamie? I felt just the energy in London generally for a long time now has just kind of fell off." And I was curious to find out from anybody listening if they have felt that way too. Because to me, it doesn't just feel like I'm trying to get back to a better version of myself, but the whole world is trying to get back to a better version of itself too. You know, if you think that night I went out, it was right in the middle of Fashion Week in central London. And it wasn't that long ago. In fact, maybe this was before the pandemic. I don't know. But if you were to go out on a Wednesday night in London, either if you were to hit up a local gig or go to an art gallery or go for dinner or just your local pub, you would feel 9 times out of 10, you would feel an electricity in the air. There would be a real buzz. And I just feel like that's missing everywhere at the moment. And I'm sure that all the conflicts that we're having in the world right now, whether it's Ukraine and Russia or it's the US and Iran, and the astronomical price of just being alive at the moment, I'm sure all of these different moving pieces are playing into that narrative. I'm sure what I'm seeing reflected whenever I go out and have experiences, there's no doubt in my mind that everything that's happening with inflation and all the wars and the conflicts in the world is having a direct effect on that. But even with that, I think recently I paid about £9 for just a basic pint of Camden Hells. And when I've been dining out places, I've stopped doing that recently, just because it seems every week the price of stuff is going up. I keep hearing on the news that inflation is only supposed to be going up once a year, but it seems like, to me, it's going up on a weekly basis. And the quality is not reflecting or matching that either. Like if you go out for dinner somewhere, just a normal basic place, an average place, not only has the price gone up, but the quality of the service and the food has just continued to decline and go down. Or at least for me, it has. And it's just left me feeling really uninspired and underwhelmed with everything. It probably doesn't help as well, but although all of these conflicts are happening, the quote, and forgive me for not saying this, I might get this wrong. This might not be totally accurate, but the kind of phrase, get your house in order, get your affairs in order before you start trying to fix everybody else's problems. That seems very, very relevant to me right now, because there are so many. I think it's safe to say every single country right now has got its fair share of problems. And it only makes sense to me that we should be focusing primarily on our own problems in our own country right now. Taxes in the UK are astronomically high, to the point where massive global businesses, tech companies that once would be operating its main offices from the UK, they're all now just fleeing to Dubai, where taxes are as low as 2% for businesses. And that's all because most businesses now that are making good money and are thriving, why do they want to stay in a country where they feel like they're being punished for actually doing well? When your UK economy and the government is throwing 30-40% taxes at you just to run a business, why are you going to want to stay there? How are you going to feel valued? People are going to get to the point where they either say, you know what, it's not worth it, I won't bother launching this business. Or businesses that are doing really well and are feeling the hit from the national insurance that's happening with companies at the moment and the taxes, they'll just go to Dubai. And the thing with that as well is I've been hearing a lot of companies don't even want to go to Dubai and places like that, but it's hard not to. It's hard to ignore how much better the quality of life is there for not only themselves, but for a business to thrive too. And it just seems crazy to me that we aren't looking at that and really trying to take care of, our own people. And I can see how that's reflected. And I've had situations and I've had challenges in my own personal life as well, because for the past 18 months or so, long story short, there was a job I was in for a good couple of years, and for many reasons, for a multitude of various reasons, I decided to leave that job. I decided to walk away from it because I wasn't happy. And for the past 18 months now, I've been trying to land the right next thing, the right next opportunity. And it has been a very punishing process and a very punishing journey, to say the least, guys. I think I must have blasted about 2,000 job applications in the past 18 months. And from that, I've had about a 5% response rate. in terms of interviews and next steps and stuff like that. And I'm not talking about trying to pursue jobs or opportunities at the CIA or NASA or MI5 or anything like that, guys. I'm talking about basic minimum wage opportunities, things that match my skills and my experience in the workplace so far, whether that's in sales, administration, customer service, copywriting. I've even auditioned for a bunch of roles at recording studios, just working as a basic in-house assistant recording engineer or an in-house composer and writer. Yep, all of that just seems to be leading to nothing. And I'll be honest, it's kind of laughable to say this, guys, but it's also embarrassing when I think about it. I remember there was a job I went for recently where I'd done a screening for the role over Teams, and that went really well. So I then got invited to the next stage of the interview, and that went really well. They then asked me to come into their main central offices in London for a third and final interview. So the couple of days leading up to the third and final interview, I spent my time doing a lot of due diligence on the company. I mapped out what I was going to say, how I was going to present myself and things like that. But anyways, I walk into the interview, and within just 5 minutes, it feels more like an interrogation than it does an exciting opportunity that I might actually want to, an exciting company that I might want to join and make my way up in and mix with some new people and have new experiences, learn some new skills and stuff like that. But the interview didn't feel very good. And I always measure a good interview. Like for me, if you walk into an interview and then within a few minutes, you forget that you're even in an interview, you're just having a really good conversation with them and you're talking about things you both like, cool experiences, positive experiences you've had in the workplace in the past. To me, that's kind of a good indicator of an interview going well and something you can get excited about. But that just didn't feel the case in this. It just felt like I was ticking boxes and saying everything that they wanted to hear. And the sad truth is, the reality is, even though I walked out of that interview afterwards feeling like I didn't even want the job, I wasn't even excited about the opportunity, the reality is I needed that position from a financial perspective and a way for me to move forwards and push other things that are happening in my life forward. And that's the other thing, is that because of this situation, things in my life, although I have been achieving a lot, I've spent the last year writing my debut album, which has been a dream of mine ever since I was a kid. I had the time to really dial in on that and create and write some things I'm super proud of. So I've been utilizing my time effectively. I even wrote a book about creativity, which I'll be sharing more details about in future videos, because I'll be looking to roll that out in the near future, along with my debut album too. I'll be dropping more information about this in the next coming weeks, in the coming months. But anyways, I walked away from that interview not feeling that great about it, but I thought I've done the best I can. I really jumped through hoops to land that thing. I get home, I check my emails a few days later, and I open it up, and it's basically just a rejection email saying, "Hi Jamie, good good to see you the other day. Although you have a lot of experience and a lot of skills that align with the position, we've decided to go with somebody else. And that has been pretty much the process for me for the past 18 months. The further issue with that is the salaries are so low in these jobs. You'll be lucky if at the end of the month you even have enough money to put into things that you actually want to do to drive your life forward, or go and take a trip somewhere or have cool experiences. These salaries are so low, and they're definitely not reflecting the state of the economy and how expensive everything is in the world right now. So you feel like your progress is stifled anyway, because even if you land one of these jobs, the pay is usually really, really low. I've been lowballed in interviews on the salary so many times too. They just shake you down for salaries that you just wouldn't be able to live on in 2026. I'm talking between 23 and 25,000 a year. And there's also been not a lot of room for progression within these companies either. And I'm very aware. The last thing I'll say about this is I'm tired of talking about it, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing about it already. But with the national insurance hike that the government has put on businesses, I have no doubt that's been the reason why so many companies are being super diligent and very, very careful about who they recruit. And they're even having second thoughts about, having roles available, like advertising for roles or trying to recruit new people, because a lot of them are trying to cut back on costs, which seems odd to me because when I look on LinkedIn, there seems to be a lot of opportunity out there. There's been a lot of things that I've been pursuing, yet they never seem to materialize into anything. And I was talking to my friend about this the other day in terms of the amount of rejections I've been getting. It's just not normal. It's not normal to get that much rejection. And although I've been making a lot of progress in other areas of my life behind the scenes, let's just say I've been keeping things very simple. I've been very much living a very minimalistic life for the past year or so, and trying to appreciate the little things. And most of all, a big part of the reason I even walked out on my last job is because I didn't feel free, and I didn't feel it was aligned with the trajectory that I was on in my life. I couldn't visualize how that job was going to add more value or help me on the path that I was on. So I decided to walk away, and here we are today, 18 months later, trying to do things differently. And it's often felt like, although the world is still turning, I'm still standing still. Even though I'm super proud of some of the things that I've achieved and the experiences I've had, it does very much feel like the world is still turning and I'm still standing still. And at times it's been super uninspiring. And some days you don't even want to get up and do anything. But then there's this voice in the back of my head that says, Jamie, if you don't do anything, then nothing is ever going to change and you can't complain about anything. So just basically shut up and get on with it. But, that's that at the end of the day. I mean, I've, it's not that normal I think it's safe to say it's not normal for anybody to be hit with that much rejection. And being a creative person and being an artist and a musician, I'd like to think I'm pretty resilient when it comes to rejection. Whether whenever I put out new music into the world, or I'm on stage playing a gig, or I write something and I show someone, there's always going to be people that don't like it. And I'd like to think I've got pretty good at handling that type of thing. And it's not personal. That's the thing you have to keep reminding yourself. It's not personal. And the people that don't like what you do and that don't see it, they don't see the value and the potential that you can bring, then at the end of the day, that's their loss. But I'm not going to lie. There are days where I've been absolutely at the end of my rope with it. And I have taken it personally. But all I can do is keep putting one foot in front of the other and just keeping my faith in the unknown and hoping at some point something, the right opportunity will reveal itself. Something will land. And when it does, you guys will be the first to hear all about it. But anyways, let's just check my notes here. Is that everything that I wanted to say today? Yeah, I think it probably is. Anyways, if you've made it this far, mad love for that. If you're into hearing about experiences, life experiences I've had, things that have gone well, things that haven't gone so well, then please like and subscribe to my channel. The last thing I wanted to say as well, and is another thing I've been making some changes on, is the rejection I've been facing, not only in the workplace, but also the feeling I've had about not feeling enough progress has been made in my life. It's led to, at times, very self destructive, very unhealthy habits and behavior. And anybody that knows me knows that over the years, I've very much wrestled with my drinking. And in the past few years, it's safe to say that it has reached very dangerous heights. What would start off as just getting blasted once every couple of weeks, it then turned into getting blasted multiple days a week, then multiple weeks a month. And the whole thing has just spiraled into a really dark place. And I've had to put that under the microscope recently because although it can be fun to get to be drinking and it can be a nice way to escape what's going on if you're not having a good day, it's a very easy way to switch off those really negative thoughts that you have that swirl around your head. Booze is a very effective way to do that. But if you do it too often, it just ends up becoming extremely unhealthy, and you end up looking at yourself in the mirror and barely recognizing yourself anymore. That's the place it gets to when you start taking it too far. And in the past few years, getting blasted and trying to escape my problems and how I'm feeling, it has started to charge me for things that I didn't want to give up. And that can be tough to navigate sometimes and to make your peace with. And I am trying to make my peace with that stuff right now. And as I say, I'm trying to do things differently. I am still having fun at times and I'm hanging in there. I'm keeping my faith in the unknown, but I'll be honest, guys, the journey has been punishing at times, and some days have been rougher than others. But it's been 3 months now since I've had anything to drink, so I'm already feeling much better in myself. I'm getting better sleep, better mental clarity, and the world feels a little less heavy because of it. So I'm thankful for that. Anyways, peace out, guys. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if anything I've said today resonates with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.